In a moment of resolve, I chose to assist my son. What unfolded thereafter took me by surprise. This is a genuine tale of betrayal. Never did I imagine I would find myself on the brink of a new chapter at this point in my life, experiencing a thrill that sent my heart racing in ways I hadn't known for years. At 39, I found myself straddling the delicate line between youth and the wisdom of age, caught in the liminal space between my former self and the person I was becoming. I felt ensnared. Once, my world brimmed with vibrancy and vitality, and I had shared nearly 2 decades of marriage with him. Yet, as time passed, that brilliance began to fade. What once ignited the soul transformed into an obligation, and affection settled into the monotony of everyday life. My husband, once brimming with energy and enthusiasm, now appeared content with tranquil evenings spent separately, embracing the steady rhythm of life's predictability. I continued to crave something greater. I yearned to be felt, heard, and seen. I'm uncertain about the moment my son Ryan began to perceive the transformation within me. Perhaps he had always been this way. At 18, he exuded maturity, confidence, and a keen insight that sometimes left me feeling unsettled. Though our bond had always been strong, his presence lately felt transformed, as if he were the one nurturing me rather than the reverse. "Mom, are you happy?" one evening, as we lingered in the kitchen. A simple question emerged. The house lay enveloped in an eerie silence. The clock's steady ticking echoed in the space between us, while my husband had retreated to bed early. As I swirled my tea, a soft chuckle escaped my lips. What prompts such a question? "Certainly, my dear." Ryan crossed his arms and rested against the counter. I gazed into his eyes, taken aback by the depth of their intensity. "It appears that you don't quite embody that impression." When had he acquired such wisdom, such depth of experience? The young boy who once clung to my side had transformed. The realization that he had transformed into a young man resonated with me more profoundly than I had expected. A soft sigh escaped my lips as I gazed down at my hands cradling the mug. I recognize that life has a way of transforming unexpectedly at times. Though individuals may evolve, one must not relinquish hope in life. His voice carried a weight of worry as he spoke softly. "Mom, there was a time when your energy was boundless. I felt an overwhelming urge to share every detail of what had transpired with him. The solitude, the quiet anguish of existing in the shadows, a yearning for the extraordinary. Yet, certain weights were not his to carry, for he was my son." A grin spread across my face as a result. "Is that so, Ryan?" "I'm doing just fine." He seemed to harbor doubts. As the weeks unfolded, I found myself acutely attuned to Ryan's unwavering presence, his frequent check-ins, his earnest attempts to draw me into conversation, and his remarkable knack for eliciting laughter from me. Over the years, his instinct to shield those he cared for had evolved. He had transcended the role of merely being my son. I found myself beginning to depend on him. It had been years since we last ventured out for a walk, until one fateful evening. The distant city lights sparkled like stars, while a refreshing breeze filled the air. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, I experienced a profound sense of freedom. As we strolled together, I turned to him and said, "Share something with me." "What is your personal vision for the future?" Ryan held his tongue for a moment before finally replying. "Though uncertainty lingers, one truth resonates within me. I aspire to embrace a life devoid of regrets." A wistful smile graced my lips. "That is an admirable goal. What about you?" he asked. I ceased my motion, a question that caught me off guard. For an extended period, I embraced the roles of wife, mother, and caregiver. My dreams and yearnings lay stifled and hidden beneath the weight of responsibilities. Yet, as I lingered beneath the clear night sky, a profound realization washed over me. I had no desire to fade away. To exist as nothing more than a mere echo of who I once was far from my desire. I yearned to embrace life anew. I believe it's time for me to begin living for my own sake once more, I said. I began, my voice measured, as Ryan's grin spread wider. Outstanding. In an instant. Everything shifted. After years of uncertainty, a spark of anticipation ignited within me as I contemplated the uncharted territory ahead. Despite the absence of a clear destination, a soft melody hung in the atmosphere as we wandered through the quiet streets, enveloping us like a secret from days gone by. A handful of couples gently swayed to the tender rhythm of a timeless jazz tune, while the warm illumination of a quaint cafe spilled invitingly onto the sidewalk. The scene unfolded with an enchanting allure, two souls traversing the currents of time, their concerns fading away as they lose themselves in the melody. I paused, captivated by the scene, if only for a fleeting moment. It had been ages since I allowed myself to simply be, free from the constraints of hesitation or the weight of future expectations. Before I could utter a word, Ryan grasped my hand firmly. He beckoned, inviting me to dance with him. I chuckled softly, shaking my head in disbelief. What exactly are you, Ryan, yet? He was already pulling me toward the soft glow of the cafe's open patio. There was no opportunity to refuse, no inquiries to be made. His hand rested firmly yet warmly in mine as we strolled, and then he gently placed his other hand on my waist as we swayed to the music. The assurance with which he guided me took me by surprise. I chuckled, somewhat in jest. You're not even one to dance. Ryan, neither do you, which puts us on equal footing. He offered a smile, a true, unfiltered laugh, long missing from my existence, burst forth from the depths of my being. The melodies from the cafe enveloped us, guiding our movements, and we found ourselves dancing as if we had been practicing for a lifetime. Only the rhythm of the song filled the air, accompanied by the gentle twinkling of string lights overhead, and the exhilarating feeling of being truly alive, free from awkwardness, devoid of hesitation. I twirled, perhaps lacking grace. Yet it mattered not. I pulled back my cheeks, flushed with a rush of unexpected thrill. Oh, be quiet, suddenly. His expression shifted, softening just as quickly as it had hardened. He murmured, his voice scarcely rising above the melody that enveloped the room. This is something you ought to embrace more often. What will your next move be, Liv? I uttered, the words carrying a weight I had not foreseen, for in truth, I had lost the very essence of what it meant to live, how to relish moments purely for their own value, free from guilt and unburdened by worries of what lies ahead. For years, I embraced the roles of wife, mother, and caregiver, yet in the process, I seemed to have faded away, losing sight of who I truly was. Yet, tonight, an exhilarating sense of freedom enveloped me, a sensation long absent from my life, as I swayed to melodies that were unfamiliar to both of us. Under the soft glow of the cafe lights, Ryan's grin suggested he could perceive the understanding gradually permeating my soul. As the final notes of the song lingered in the air, he spun me around one last time and whispered, "You're beautiful when you're happy." I exhaled slowly, feeling the thrill of the moment begin to settle within me. It is possible that he was indeed right. Maybe it was time to return to the art of living. As we strolled out of the cafe and along the street, a subtle transformation had taken root within me. After a considerable stretch of time, a sense of anticipation washed over me, igniting a curiosity about the unfolding events, despite my complete uncertainty. The house lay in stillness upon our arrival, bathed in the soft, ethereal light of the street lamps beyond. As always, my husband lay in slumber, the familiar silence enveloping the room, a comforting echo of our daily routine. Yet, There was an unmistakable shift in the air this evening. Sleep held no allure for me. For the first time in years, I truly felt awake, profoundly and undeniably awake. The recollection of twirling beneath the cafe lights, laughter spilling forth without restraint, and a sense of self returning still sent a thrill coursing through my skin. Ryan made a mental note. He certainly did. "Are you not weary?" Propped against the threshold and smiling with that familiar understanding in your eyes, he inquired. After a brief pause, I gently shook my head. I do not consider myself a mere number. He smiled and remarked, "Good. Following that, let us proceed with determination." I raised an eyebrow as he offered a casual shrug. "Please make haste. When did you last act solely driven by joy?" The question struck me like a bolt, leaving me momentarily frozen. I realized, with a pang of regret, that I had spent countless years dedicated to the happiness of others, my son, my spouse, my family, yet I had neglected to pose that very question to myself at a certain moment. Ryan grasped my Ryanette. "Let us proceed, if you would be so kind." I furrowed my brow in displeasure. "Where do you wander, you'll see," he said, his eyes glinting with mischief. I took a moment to gather my thoughts. Silence enveloped the house. My husband lay peacefully asleep, and it would be wise for me to follow suit and retire to bed as I typically do. Yet, I found myself pondering the emotions that stirred within me this evening. How liberating, how buoyant. And yet there was an undeniable force within me that clung to that sensation. I grabbed my coat and stepped out the door in pursuit of him. 20 minutes later, we found ourselves outside a dance studio. Perplexed, I glanced over at Ryan. In this moment, a dance studio. With a smile, he took a key and turned it in the lock, opening the door. I might have convinced a friend to allow us to stay the night there. I couldn't wrap my mind around it. Disbelief washing over me as I shook my head. "Pray tell, how did you accomplish that feat?" He offered a nonchalant shrug. "I navigate life on my own terms," with a decisive shove. He opened the door and flicked on the lights, leaving no room for my protest. The gleaming wooden floor reflected the soft glow of the light, leaving the studio in an eerie solitude. A wall stood adorned with mirrors stretching from floor to ceiling, casting our reflections in a quiet anticipation. The room exuded a sense of reverence, as though it were poised for the emergence of something profound from within. Ryan perused his phone with casual intent before making his way to a diminutive speaker nestled in the corner. In an instant, the space was enveloped in soft melodies, I consumed with a deliberate and measured pace. "Is that you?" Ryan, I couldn't quite tell if he had turned to me and interrupted. "There are no justifications. This evening, we simply danced." I gazed at my reflection, releasing a slow breath. The woman gazing back at me seemed filled with doubt and reluctance. Yet, beneath it all, there lingered an essence, a force poised to break free. "Very well," I responded. "But should I appear foolish, the blame rests squarely on your shoulders." He let out a hearty laugh. "Agreed." And we began to shift, reminiscent of our time at the cafe. I began with a stiffness, my movements awkward and calculated, as if I were holding back a part of myself that once relished moments like this for far too long. Yet, Ryan exhibited remarkable patience. He guided me softly, navigating with grace and assurance. He murmured, "Simply sense. Do not ponder." I shut my eyes, surrendering to the moment, and for the first time in years, I released my grip. I surrendered to the music, letting my body remember the sensation of moving boldly and without a trace of doubt. As I danced, a profound awakening stirred within me, a torrent of emotions, memories, and an unrecognized yearning for something I hadn't even known was missing. For what felt like an eternity, I had been fading into the shadows of my own existence, yet here I stood tonight, breathless and utterly, completely liberated. By the time the music faded, I found myself laughing, filled with a sense of giddiness, alertness, and pure elation. Ryan wore a smile. I told you that you had the ability to achieve it. Didn't I still regaining my composure? I shook my head. I find myself in awe of how I could have overlooked my deep affection for this. Well, he said, perhaps you should consider ceasing to forget. It may be time for you to consider taking action. I hesitated as his expression softened. Participate in a class, embrace the great outdoors, engage in an act solely for your own benefit. A flutter of emotion awakened within me as I looked upon him. Is it possible for me to... Could I truly abandon the life I had meticulously crafted, the comfortable, secure, and predictable existence, and embark on a journey solely for my own fulfillment? Before I could even ponder the matter, the reply came forth. Indeed, with a smile. I responded, the decision has been finalized. I am confident that I shall. In an instant, a transformation stirred within me. I was more than merely his wife. I was more than merely his mother. I was the one who stood apart, and that was enough for the first time in quite a while. Upon awakening the next morning, I experienced a sense of lightness I hadn't felt in years. The unanticipated evening of dancing left my body with a slight ache, yet I felt invigorated rather than weary. The thrill of last night lingered in my veins as I extended my limbs. The fluidity of my body, the liberation I felt in granting myself the freedom to unwind, was nothing short of euphoric. As Ryan stepped into the kitchen, a smile gracing his lips, I found myself still enveloped in that same emotion. He reached for the coffee pot, playfully remarking, "You're still glowing." Despite the eye roll, a grin crept onto my face, impossible to suppress. Last night was delightful, and so he suggested, "Let's give it another go." I raised an eyebrow. He took another sip of his coffee, leaning casually against the counter. Why halt at this moment? I pondered. To truly embrace this endeavor, it is essential to acquire new knowledge. A captivating experience awaits. Intrigued, I tilted my head as he smiled and placed his mug down, the rhythm of bachata lingering in the air. I blinked bachata. Indeed, he remarked, pulling out his phone and beginning to play a tune. The kitchen resonated with a gentle, rhythmic melody that unfolded slowly. It flowed effortlessly, exuding a captivating allure, and was unlike any rhythm I had ever experienced on the dance floor. He emphasized that it transcends mere movement. It revolves around the sensation of music intertwining, the act of self-expression, and permitting it to narrate a story. He swayed gently to the rhythm, and as I bit my lip, I found myself captivated by the way he articulated the song's essence, an intriguing phenomenon. I longed to dance in that way, yet I had never attempted it before. I took a slow sip of my coffee, masking my true feelings with an air of indifference. Very well. Please guide me. Ryan wore a smile. This promises to be extraordinary. That evening, we cleared the furniture aside, creating a spacious area in the living room. A flutter of nervous excitement stirred within my chest the moment the music commenced. "All right," Ryan said, stepping ahead of me. The essence of bachata lies not just in the movement, but in the fluidity and the connection nurtured between partners, which are vital elements of the dance. It pertains to feelings. With a deep inhalation, I nodded in agreement. "Direct me towards his shoulders." He grasped my hands. Moving in rhythm with the pulse is the initial stride. Tap, tap, tap. At first reluctant, I chose to emulate his approach. The rhythm was captivating, imbued with a profound essence, yet it unfolded at a more languid pace than salsa. It felt deeply intimate. His hands held my waist with a steady grip as he leaned in to whisper, "Good. Now, let us incorporate the motion of the body with each movement." He swayed his hips ever so slightly, causing a warm blush to creep across my cheeks. "Take a breath," he urged. "It seems to me that you might be delving a bit too deeply into this matter." I maintained that I was completely at ease. His smirk held all the secrets. "Proceed to showcase it." I released my tension and exhaled deeply. I allowed the rhythm to permeate my very being, surrendering to the moment as I closed my eyes for a time. As I opened them again, I found myself moving with greater fluidity, mirroring his actions and letting my body align with his more seamlessly. He whispered. All else faded away as the music enveloped us, weaving through the small space that separated us. It transcended mere movement on the floor, an unspoken vow of faith, a conversation stripped of language. Furthermore, I had been nurturing my son, Ethan, on my own for years. Our connection was indestructible, forged through years of steadfast support, shared laughter, and deep trust. Horses had forever captured Ethan's heart, and I was certain of the path to take. Upon reaching the age of 21, I reached out to past acquaintances who operated a well-regarded equestrian school and enrolled him in a course designed to enhance his skills. It filled me with pride to witness him wholeheartedly embrace the lessons, mirroring the passion he displayed for all that he cherished. I chose to concentrate on my own journey as Ethan embraced his new path in equestrian training. It had been ages since I found myself in a committed relationship. I sensed it was perhaps the moment to invite someone into my life, despite not yearning for romance at that instant, at that juncture. Brian made his entrance. Brian was a man who exuded charm with remarkable ease. He possessed an undeniable charm. He exuded success, possessed striking good looks, and consistently found the right words to express himself. Yet, I never truly forged a connection with him. For some inexplicable reason, he seemed to embody a sense of security, a person I could effortlessly introduce to my friends with assurance, although he failed to stir any deep emotions within me. He embodied the ideal companion, yet I convinced myself that camaraderie held greater importance than fervor. After a few months of dating Brian, I observed a transformation in Ethan. He had become increasingly distant. The once casual and easy flow of our conversations now carried an air of tension. He often watched me, his expression a mystery I couldn't decipher. At first, I thought he was merely acclimating to his new routine, yet it appeared that the tension between us was mounting. I remarked, "You're back earlier than expected." Ethan shrugged, his gaze flitting between me and the water glass cradled in his hand. Indeed. I found myself contemplating a number of matters, in the weighty stillness that enveloped us. I filled my glass with a drink. "Would you like to engage in a conversation about it?" I posed a question. He took a moment to pause. He set the glass aside and let out a deep sigh. "Are you fond of him?" It came as an unexpected inquiry. I cast a disapproving glance at Brian. "What prompts your inquiry?" With his arms crossed, he leaned casually against the counter. "Mother. I just can't perceive it in his presence. You lack radiance in conversations about subjects that truly ignite your passion. Your laughter resonates far more than it does in this moment." I chuckled softly, shaking my head in disbelief. Connections are not solely defined by excitement. Ethan, at times, it's simply about discovering that special someone with whom you can share the journey of life. He tightened his jaw. It seems akin to making compromises. The weight of his voice made me stop in my tracks. I watched him intently, sensing that his words held deeper meaning. "Ethan." I spoke with caution, choosing my words with care. "My deepest desire is for your happiness and fulfillment." He departed, and I was left with an inexplicable sensation that eluded my understanding. As I reclined in bed that night, my thoughts wandered back to the formative years of Ethan. I pondered the joy he had consistently brought into my life and the countless years we had shared. This evening, his gaze held a certain depth, as if an unspoken secret lingered between us. A shift had occurred, though its nature eluded my understanding. His laughter, usually so effortless, now carried a hint of strain as they lingered in the moment. I noticed a palpable fear in him, a reluctance to cross an unseen threshold. As he paused before reaching out to touch my shoulder or maneuvering past me in the hallway. One evening, Brian arrived for dinner. He entered, a bottle of wine in hand, and bestowed upon me a gentle kiss on the cheek. Ethan entered the kitchen as I arranged the table, his hair still glistening from the recent shower. Upon catching sight of Brian, his lips formed a tight line as he paused in the doorway. I glanced at him and said, "You're just in time for a meal." His voice was strained as he responded. I'd already acquired something. His eyes were unwaveringly locked onto Brian. Brian let out a hearty laugh. "Come, take a seat beside us for a moment, dear one." Ethan's jaw tightened. I am no longer a child. Brian, clearly entertained, lifted an eyebrow in curiosity. Indeed, it held no significance. I exhaled slowly, sensing the palpable tension escalating between them. "Please, just stay for a moment, Ethan." He paused in stillness for a moment, then gradually pulled out a chair and settled into it across from Brian. He barely uttered a word, scarcely grazing his meal. I endeavored to maintain a light-hearted dialogue, yet occasionally I caught him gazing at me with an inscrutable look. It wasn't until Brian had departed later that evening that I stumbled upon Ethan, alone in the living room, lost in thought as he stared into the void. After a brief pause, I settled beside him on the couch. "What seems to be troubling you softly?" I asked. Following an extended stretch of quietude, he finally shifted his gaze in my direction. There was a new depth in his eyes, an elusive quality that I struggled to define. Ethan remarked, "You do not harbor feelings for him." My heart flutters at his promise. Ethan interrupted me before I had the chance to complete my thought. "One does not. You feel that being with him is the right course of action to take, with a deep inhalation." I gathered my thoughts. The truth pressed down upon me, yet I felt an urge to contest his words and assert that he was in error. Brian did not receive my affection. In truth, I have never experienced that. He possessed a pragmatic nature. He assisted me in bridging the gaps within my existence. There was an unusual timbre to Ethan's voice that sent my heart into a frantic rhythm. He advanced a step in our direction, drawing us nearer. He slipped his hands into the depths of his pockets. His defined features and the hint of an unrecognized emotion in his expression were accentuated by the elongated shadows that the golden light of the setting sun cast across his face. His voice dipped to a deeper register as he remarked, "I enjoyed watching you. You seemed utterly free." I sensed my grip on the reins strengthen as I swallowed hard. Ethan nodded, his gaze flitting across my features before settling on my eyes. It was a satisfying experience. He appeared to be searching for something akin to permission or a response, and his gaze carried a weighty intensity. The silence hung thick and oppressive. My skin radiated warmth, a stark contrast to the coolness of the air around me. The sound of my heartbeat echoed in my ears, almost deafening in its intensity. I cleared my throat, taking a measured step back. "It is imperative that we recover the horses." Ethan blinked, as if emerging from a deep slumber. He exhaled softly, a slight shake of his head revealing a hint of amusement. "Indeed, that is correct." Yet, the excitement lingered between us as we guided the horses back to their stalls. It merely deteriorated further, each time he cast a furtive glance or brushed his fingers against mine as we both reached for the same buckle. I felt it stir within me. With each gentle caress, a spark ignited within me. Ethan had ceased to hide a truth that I endeavored to overlook, yet found myself unable to do so. once we finished. He leaned against the stall door, observing me as I brushed down my horse. Though his arms were crossed over his chest, he was not trying to give off a casual vibe. He seemed to radiate intensity, if nothing else. I stifled a chuckle, my throat tightening as I did so. He made no attempt to refute the fact that your gaze was fixed upon him once more. I hesitated for a moment, then met his gaze directly. Ethan. Life unfolds beautifully for me. I stand on my own, running a business that reflects my dedication, and I have raised a son who fills me with pride.